Good morning. We're going to try to get this started. Thank you so much for your patience, and welcome to Senate Finance. And Committee Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Senator Canizaro, Senator Goycochea, Senator Harris, Senator Neal, Senator Nguyen, Senator Sievers-Gansert, Senator Titus, Chair Dondarelou.
Here. Thank you very much. And please mark Senator Harris present as she arrives. We will have some members in and out today because this is a deadline day and we have lots going on. So with that being said, I do want, for those that are listening online, when you get ready for public comment or testimony, the number will be 888-475-4499. And when prompted, the meeting ID for today will be 838-2881-2259, and then you press pound, and then when prompted for the participant ID, please press pound. This is also on the agenda if you're listening online. We have many bills today to listen to, so we're going to try to get through them without the break, but we may have to stop, do floor, and then come back. So be aware that you may be here tonight with us. So with that, I know that's not what you wanted to hear. It's not what I wanted to say either. So with that, we are going to start with the Senate Bill 94. This is a bill from the Committee on Government Affairs, and we have Assemblyman Watts with us today. Welcome, Assemblyman. We're happy to see you this morning.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
I know you're very happy to be here because everybody's happy to be in finance.
I'm delighted to be.
Thank you.
I'm delighted to be here.
Perfect answer. All right.
Friday morning.
Go ahead, please.
And this bill's being heard, so thank you very much. For the record, Howard Watts, I represent Assembly District 15 in Clark County. It's my pleasure to present SB 94 for your consideration today. Touching just very briefly at a high level on the policy, SB 94 sought to create a tribal liaison position in state government. In the 2019 legislative session, we created a tribal liaison program, but essentially how it works is it designated a point person in different state agencies that work regularly with the tribes as the tribal liaison. So that role and those kind of responsibilities of engaging with tribes were essentially added on to another position's existing responsibilities. You know, some agencies had people that were doing that already, some did not. And so in conversations with tribal governments and with others, we thought that it would be beneficial to have specific positions created in agencies that could focus on doing that tribal engagement. And so that's what this bill seeks to do. It actually lays out the position and its qualifications in statute for a tribal liaison. And the bill as drafted originally had essentially a requirement for each state agency to employ rather than designate a tribal liaison. I hope members have a mock-up available that was drafted for this bill. Essentially, and I apologize for starting with such a complicated bill fiscally at the start of your agenda, but when you ask every agency to employ a new position, you get a lot of fiscal notes back. So what the mock-up seeks to do is have our constitutional offices, so the governor, the lieutenant governor, secretary of state, state treasurer, state controller, and attorney general, as well as our departments, and I'll get to that in a second, be the agencies that employ a tribal liaison, and then all of the other agencies that work with tribes would continue to designate an existing staff person. And so the goal of that was to reduce the overall fiscal impact, but make sure we had coverage, again, among our key constitutional officers and then essentially our cabinet level agencies. We don't really have a definition for cabinet level agencies, so we decided to stick with at that top department level. And just to clarify, because there was a lot of questions to figure out exactly what the revised scope was. Originally, boards, commissions, divisions, offices would have all been covered under the definition of agency. Checked with legal just to be very sure, and if the agency doesn't have department in its name, it will not be covered. And the divisions within a department would not have to employ their own liaison. So there'd be, for example, one liaison for the Department of Transportation, one for the Department of Conservation Natural Resources, one for the Department of Health and Human Services, and so on. And so with that, there are many fiscal notes provided by agencies. I'm sure some of them will come up and speak. You know, we compiled all of the fiscal notes that were provided originally, and they totaled about $7.5 million. Based on the change, we are currently, and we didn't get responses returned from everybody, but we're currently estimating that that's been reduced by more than half to around $3.5 million. And so I'm glad to provide additional detail to the extent that I have it at this time, but we'll turn it over to any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We were struggling with finding this. Members, does anybody not have the amendment? I do not have a hard copy, but it is online under exhibits. So, So I'm sorry, Assemblyman. So would you just, in a succinct maybe sentence, tell us what the amendment does again?
Certainly, Madam Chair. Howard Watts for the record, and I'd be glad to also provide the hard copy that I have after I walk through it. So it amends Section 1 of the bill. It just adds the definition of constitutional officer and includes the governor, the lieutenant governor, secretary of state, state treasurer, state controller, and attorney general as those constitutional officers. Then it proceeds to amend section 1.6 of the bill to say that each constitutional officer and other state agency which is designated as a department by statute shall employ a tribal liaison who reports directly to the constitutional officer or the head of the department as applicable. Each tribal liaison who is employed pursuant to this subsection is in the classified service of the state. And then now in sub 5, it says each state agency that is not otherwise described in subsection 4, so again, those constitutional officers and departments, and that regularly communicates with Indian tribes on a regular basis shall designate, which is the current statutory construct, an employee who reports directly to the head of the state agency to be the agency's tribal liaison. And so again, the goal of the amendment is to move it from having every single agency in the state hire a dedicated tribal liaison position to moving that to only our constitutional officers and the top department level agencies.
Question, Senator Goicoechea.
Thank you, Madam Chair, to the Assemblyman. We must have kind of a feel about how many departments do you have that broke down. Clearly, you've got Ag, DCNR. Would that be NDEP as well? Or would it just be DCNR and then cover, or is forestry also considered a department?
Thank you very much for that question, Senator Goicoechea. Howard Watts for the record. So Yes, we do have a bit of a grip. So obviously we know the constitutional offices and how many of those there are very well. I just listed those out. And then in terms of departments, let me first answer your question specifically because you mentioned Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. The original version of the bill would have had DCNR as well as Forestry, as well as Division of Environmental Protection. All those divisions would have had an employed separate new position. Under the proposed amendment that I've described, only DCNR, so only the department level would have one. Now still NDEP, since they work with tribes, would continue to designate one of their employees, but it would not create a new position. A new position would not be required within those divisions. Same thing with Health and Human Services. HHS itself would have a designated tribal or a created tribal liaison position. Divisions within the Department of Health and Human Services would designate an existing employee, not create a new position. I hope that provides some clarification.
Madam Chair, if I may follow up quickly, but then we would, like Department of Agriculture would, because that is technically a department, and so I'm thinking some of these are going to have a liaison, maybe not a lot of interaction, and we're going to have others. It concerns me, and I know what you're trying to do, keep from having 200 employees in place, but yeah, it's probably as good as you can start with, trying to tweak it down, but some of them wouldn't clearly have the workload that others are going to have considerable. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator, and I appreciate that. And again, I feel like all of our departments, I think, are going to have some level of engagement with tribal communities, and so this was the best way that I could come to wrap my arms around it. Again, there are some other boards, commissions, and other agencies that probably make sense, but instead of writing a bill to try and pick and choose, we decided let's start at that department level. So yes, I mean, Department of Conservation and Natural Resources could probably use more than one. Department of Agriculture might not have the same level of workload, but yeah, so this is how it would work under this proposal. So a Department of Conservation and Natural Resources would have one, Department of Agriculture would have one, Department of Transportation would have one. And I think the one thing I will say is that keeping the existing statute where people within some of those smaller agencies can have an employee designated will hopefully help kind of balance that workload and that engagement without creating a substantial cost to the state.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Titus, did you have a question, please?
I did, thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. Looking at the logistics of this, that would definitely have a fiscal impact, and reading and I appreciate what you're attempting to do, but part of the wording has me concerned on how will each of these employees be communicating to each other as a group, because in the bill, each employee is supposed to establish protocols that prioritize tribal self-determination, and then they're supposed to manage and ensure adherence to tribal consultation policies, and so that every single department will now have an individual employed in that department that is supposed to set up these tribal self-determinations and all these different protocols. Are they supposed to get together once in a while and communicate with each other? There's many different tribes with different issues and needs. I'm just worried about the structure, the administration, and then implementation.
Thank you very much for that question, Senator Titus. Howard Watts for the record. I appreciate that, and you may hear, so again, we already have a tribal liaison program that is established. What I've heard is, again, it just depends on who the person is, what their workload is. Some liaisons, tribal communities absolutely love to work with and are, extremely engaged. And I don't want to speak ill of any state employee just because of the amount of things they have going on. But other liaisons, there could be some room for improvement. And again, that's because we're adding some of these responsibilities on top of their existing kind of job. And so to answer your question specifically, there are already meetings of tribal liaisons from different agencies to help share some of that information. As you're likely aware, there's the proposal to also have the Indian Commission leave the Department of Tourism and become its own agency. The Indian Commission has also tried to kind of help be a bridge and provide help with communication and support for these tribal liaisons. And so while it's not specifically in statute, that structure is kind of already in place. And so I think that would continue to support the agencies that designate an employee, as well as support the kind of more robust work of the new position that's created in this bill.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for that information. And we'll go to support for Senate Bill 94 here in Carson City. Las Vegas, you can come to the table. No one there, so we'll wait for Carson City to get themselves organized. Go ahead, please, when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Christine Saunders, and I'm the Policy Director with the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada, here in support of Senate Bill 94. In 2019, we were proud to testify in support of Assembly Bill 264 to have state agencies designate tribal liaisons and work to improve collaboration with Nevada's indigenous communities. While this was a step in the right direction, SB 94 will ensure that there is a dedicated staff person who can focus on prioritizing frequent and clear communication with tribes. This is of paramount importance as Nevada faces critical decisions that impact resources and the future of our state. We urge your support. Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Will Adler, representing Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe, Duck Valley Reservation, and Duck Water Reservation. Dedicated tribal liaison positions is a piece of the communication puzzle that is missing today in Nevada's interactions with their tribal communities. Having a dedicated dedicated position in all of these executive offices and at the head of all these sort of satellite or mothership agencies would provide a clear sounding board or a place where these issues and these specific concerns for tribal communities could be heard, where today there isn't someone that they know they can call, they know they can communicate with to get clear communication for all the agencies, that agency directly and all those that work under them. Senate Bill 94 would correct that, and it is needed and would be appreciated. So please support Senate Bill 94. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Seeing no one in Las Vegas and no one else in Carson City, we'll go to the phone lines. BPS, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to offer support of SB 94, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we'll go to opposition here in Carson City and Las Vegas. And on the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 94, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to offer opposition testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to neutral here in Carson City.
Good morning, Madam Chair. For the record, Marla McDade-Williams, Deputy Director for the Department of Health and Human Services. Here just to testify that the fiscal notes that were submitted by the various divisions in the department will no longer apply based on the amendment. I also wanted to add that the Department of Health and Human Services has had tribal liaison positions in place for a very long time. This bill seeks to establish a state classification system that would specifically recognize the skills it takes to serve as a tribal liaison for state government. Right now, the positions that we have range from a management analyst to a health program specialist, and someone specifically with tribal experience doesn't meet the qualifications for those positions. So the intent of the bill is to develop a classification system that recognizes a person's experience actually working with tribes. So when they are employed by the state agency, that they can bring with them a skill set that's not available in the agencies right now. The positions that we currently have throughout the Department of Health and Human Services, with this bill, it gives us an opportunity to reclassify them so that people that are in the positions actually come from tribal communities potentially, or already have that experience. And I would just like to add that I had a quick exchange with the executive director of the Nevada Indian Commission, and back in 2017, I believe, in a different iteration of my career, I represented a client who was successful in establishing a law to require a statewide tribal consultation policy. And that statewide tribal consultation policy has been under development with the Nevada Indian Commission. And I believe at their June 19th meeting, they intend to finalize that. And that will apply statewide to all state agencies. And it provides the basis of how state agencies can best work and collaborate with tribes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here in Carson City in neutral? In Las Vegas? On the phone lines, please, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to provide neutral testimony for SB 94, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to offer neutral testimony at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Closing comments? None? Thank you very much. So with that, I'll close Senate Bill 94 and we'll open Senate Bill 185. We'll welcome Senator Neal to the table.
Good morning, Senate Committee on Finance. I am Senator Dina Neal here to discuss the fiscal note on SB 185. So this bill creates an business opportunity outreach unit within the purchasing division, and the fiscal note represents that in order to administer this bill, they would need an Management Analyst 3, which would end up being the director over the Economic Opportunity Unit, and they also need an Administrative Assistant 2. They also have rolled in here because it requires a dashboard to be created, a centralized dashboard. So basically, I'm trying to create a statewide system between the Clark County and the purchasing division. I was building upon an existing, I would say, purchasing or a procurement committee, advisory committee that does contracts that has been in place, I believe, since 2005. And so I was advancing and improving upon a minority, women-owned procurement system and trying to cross it over to the state. So that's pretty much what the bill does.
Questions, please. Okay, seeing no questions, we'll go to those in support of Senate Bill 185.
Good morning, Chair Don Daraloop and members of the committee. Dylan, Keith, DYLA, and KEITH with the Vegas Chamber. We would like to thank Senator Neal for bringing this legislation forward. We do think it would bring a strong benefit to small businesses across the state, and we ask for your support as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional support here in Carson City? In Las Vegas, any support? On the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to opposition here in Carson City. In Las Vegas, phone lines when you're ready.
There's still no callers to testify.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to neutral here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, and on the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
Still no callers, Chair.
Thank you very much. All right. We have one other quick question, Senator Neal, when you get back to the table. We have a conceptual amendment. Was that old or has that been, can you walk us through where that is?
So, Senator Neal, for the record, on 185,
Yes,
it's old because this is currently the first reprint, so this adopted.
okay, perfect.
the
We just wanted to
changes.
make sure we had something and wanted to make sure. Senator Titus.
Sorry, quick question, and thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for coming back up. I thought about this afterwards. Is this going to be working with the Office of the Small Business in the Lieutenant Governor's office, or is this a totally separate program, not communicating with each other?
So, Senator Neal, for the record, no, it won't be working with the Office of Small Business Advocacy. The RBDAC, which is listed in the bill, which is the Regional Business Advisory Group, that's actually been around since 2005, right? It was around well before the legislation related to the Lieutenant Governor. And so they have been doing work with all of the local governments for a really, really long time. There's never been a connection between the procurement that they do there to the state procurement, and this bill connects them and brings them together. And so the small business office, whatever, the Lieutenant Governor's Small Business Advocacy, they don't do procurement. But it does, I attempted to try to at least link the work that GOED, because GOED has a procurement office, to try to close the loop around procurement.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, I will close the hearing on Senate Bill 185, and we will open the hearing on Senate Bill 385. Don't go far. We'll just have the Dina Neal hour real quick.
All right.
All right, go ahead, please.
So 385. So 385, you guys should have an amendment in this one. It has to deal with Section 1, Subsection 3, and you have an amendment from Renown, from Chris Bossi. So it should be in the stack. So basically, SB 385 is kind of like this omnibus healthcare bill. It deals with dental. I believe I have some other medical things in here, but anyway, we'll just stick to the fiscal note. So the fiscal note basically says that there will be some savings. Although you see a $13 million fiscal note, the impact to the state is actually the 2.5, roughly 2.5 million, because the federal share will cover majority of the cost of the implementation of this bill. And so with that, I'll just open myself up for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there questions from the committee? Senator Gansert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just looking at Section 1.3, where it talks about if a provider chose not to order or conduct any tests requested by the patient, they have to document a reason.
So Senator Neal, for the record, so this was brought to me by constituents who were having instances where they were going into the emergency room and had clear signs that something was wrong, and they were asking for certain tests, and those tests weren't being administered. And then when they left, they found out that there was really something wrong that was pretty serious. And so, I think I used a bad example in committee, but in this committee, one of the, so I know of a constituent that went in and she had swelling, and she was trying to figure out what was going on, and she ended up having, vasculitis is a very hard thing to identify, but she ended up having a vasculitis, and she kept saying that she was having pain, she was having constriction, and she was asking for a series of tests, but instead they sent her home. So I've been going round and round with the hospitals around what would be the language, and so this amendment represents what they can live with around making sure that the provider who has primary responsibility for the treatment and care, that the hospital shall document in the medical record the reasons the provider chose not to order or conduct any tests. So it doesn't mandate that they'll do it, but it'll at least put in the record, well, it was asked for, but I didn't do it, and here's now the note that can carry over to the primary physician when they leave, so there's a medical record to address.
Okay, thank you. Senator Gansert?
Thank you. I don't know if Senator Titus, since she's a practitioner.
Senator
might have-
Titus?
So thank you, Madam Chair. And just looking at this amendment, because we did hear this in HHS committee, and just concerns about the amendment, and I appreciate Chris Bossy putting this in. My concern is when, how do you know, and how does the courts know, or how does anyone know what, it'll be the patient's word versus the provider word on say, hey, I wanted this test, and the provider said no, and the provider said, you never said that. So I just worry about when we're mandating, again, healthcare issues and treatments into a system that then may be used for litigation. I have real concerns about when a patient comes in and says, hey, I want a CT scan, and there really isn't any indication for a CAT scan. So just a little confused about this amendment, and we can take it offline with, and Chris and I can have a discussion about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, additional questions? All right, seeing none on this particular bill, we'll go to support of Senate Bill 385. Here in Carson City, Las Vegas. On the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. The lines are open and working. However, there are no callers to offer support testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to opposition here in Carson City. Las Vegas. On the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers to provide opposition testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to neutral here in Carson City.
Good morning. My name is Patrick Kelly with the Nevada Hospital Association. We want to thank Senator Neal for working with us. We've been working on this language, particularly on subsection 3, and think we've found a compromise that we'll be able to implement. So thank you very much for your work on this, Senator, and for listening to us.
Thank you very much. And anyone else in neutral? Neutral in Las Vegas? Go ahead, please. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Joe Millay, Deputy Administrator with the Division of Public and Behavioral Health. In regards to Senate Bill 385, Amendment 356, specifically Section 1.1 and Section 1.2, eliminates the fiscal note for the Division of Public and Behavioral Health.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in Las Vegas in neutral? Phone lines, please, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. There are no callers to provide neutral testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 385, and we'll have Senator Donnell do Senate Bill 395.
All right, Senator Neal, here to present SB 395. So SB 395 was a bill that basically dealt with limiting the aggregate purchases of, I would say, investor companies or large hedge fund companies. And so the bill, the fiscal note comes from, I've been working with the Securities Division in the Office of the Secretary of State, and they would have to, this bill mandates a registration. So basically what we have to do in order to implement this bill, we wanted to know, number one, who's playing in the state, who's buying homes, that is creating competition between regular homeowners who are competing against corporations. So it mandates within the Secretary of State's office that the investor will now register, so we know who is a part of the investor space. Then number two, it also changes the deed at the county level so that there is now a box where you have to then check that this individual is an investor, which that doesn't exist now. And then there is paperwork. Well, we thought a lot about what this would look like. So there would be a form that would then be filed with the Clark County or the recorder in order to identify that they have registered with the Secretary of State, and now they're filing this additional addendum piece with their deed recording. Secretary of State believes that in order to implement this bill, it would cost 163, well, it says 163,000 over the biennium, but the fiscal year 23-24 says 476, so maybe they can speak about that. So I think it's for 23-24, it's 476. And then for fiscal year 24 and 25, it's 81,000. And then it says effect on future biennia is 163. So the way that the fiscal note reads, they would need a program officer that would cost, so there would be a program officer 1, there would be an IT personnel, and then there would also be some technology changes or advancement. So with that, I'll open myself up for questions.
Thank you very much. Questions on this particular bill? All right, quiet bunch this morning. We will go to support for Senate Bill 395 here in Carson City, Las Vegas. On the phone lines, BPS when you're ready.
Chair, the public line is open and working, and there are no callers to testify.
Thank you very much. Those in opposition for Senate Bill 395 in Carson City, Las Vegas, and on the phone lines, BPS when you're ready.
We still have no callers to testify.
All right, we'll go to neutral. Senate Bill 395 here in Carson City, Las Vegas, on the phone lines, BPS.
Chair, there are no callers to testify in neutral.
Okay, thank you very much. Any closing comments, Senator Neal? All right, we will go to Senate Bill 400.
Good morning, Senator Neal, to discuss SB 400. So SB 400, been working on it pretty much this session. But the idea is to create a collaborative piece between the work that is done at the county level, the city level, and then it includes the rural COC, and also to build a flexible continuum of care plan outside of the handcuff dollars that we get federally. The bill basically asked for $30 million that it would be taken as a carve out from the gaming fee, from the gaming licenses, from the non-restricted gaming licenses that are under NRS 463.370. And the it would come from the 6.75% rate. You have an amendment, which is pretty much at this point the bill, that just spells out how the money would be spread. So there's $9 million that would go to the city of Las Vegas so they can continue to build out the corridor. The fiscal advisory group would now be positioned under DHHS, similar to, I believe, a healthy fund advisory group that we have, where the DHHS would be in control, and then there would be work programs that come through IFC where the cities would then apply for their pieces of the revenue in order to do specific work that's defined in the bill. It also spells out that in order to create this flexible continuum, that the reinvestment dollars that we have for the managed care organizations, there would then be a look back to go and amend their contracts so that they reinvest into actual homelessness services, sustainable medication, prescription services, et cetera. And then it also, in order to close the loop on what would be a statewide homelessness program, it brings in the federally qualified healthcare centers because they have a higher Medicaid reimbursement rate. And so in order to try to fill the gap on the service providers, I put that in so that there would be some kind of connection on how we build that flexible continuum. And this 30 million is a way to get this started. And so local governments, North Las Vegas and Henderson, would have to use their existing resources, personnel, in order to go towards the program. It doesn't require that they give up 2 million, but it does require that any existing effort that they have is applied to this and that they're eligible for a matching grant if they can establish that they're already putting that in. And the Metro piece, they're in, but their fiscal note has been removed. I believe that the city of Las Vegas should remove their fiscal note. Clark County should remove their fiscal note because I'm no longer taking any of the property tax from the Metro police officers.
Apologies, Senator, we don't have the amendment, so.
I turned it in 2 days ago.
Yeah.
We have it, it's just not posted.
It's just not posted online, so we're trying to get that done, so hang tight just for a minute.
Do you want me to email it to everyone?
Mr. Thorley just emailed everybody. It's just out there somewhere in the building waiting to come to us, so just a minute. They're taking us one by one. Okay, I think it is on Nellis, and it is also on, possibly in your email if you got lucky and got the lucky number. So are there any questions as you look at this?
Madam Chair, one thing I forgot to mention, that if you look at number 6, it does include the ability for small and large nonprofits who have expertise to be a part of the continuum to prevent duplicate agencies or monopolies, because that was one of the very important pieces, that maybe smaller nonprofits have expertise and should be a part of the whole solution around homelessness services.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, well, with that, are there any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll go to support of Senate Bill 400. Go ahead when you're in.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Nick Vasiliadis for the record on behalf of the Nevada Resort Association. We appreciate the sponsor's willingness to work with us on this bill and include us in these conversations. And I think oftentimes when it comes to large-scale issues like this, we always look for some sort of magical solution to solve all problems. Quite frankly, that doesn't exist. And we very much appreciate the fact the sponsor is looking for a place to start, bringing various members of the community, state government, business, nonprofits together to try and attack this problem in a holistic manner. So with that, we urge this committee's support of SB 400. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Kelly Crompton, representing the City of Las Vegas. The City of Las Vegas is in support of SB 400. We appreciate the Senator's continued efforts to bring dollars into the region for homeless services and building out our Courtyard Resource Center. We hope that to continue conversations over the years and in the interim about dedicated revenue to the area so that we can have money to depend on in a dedicated resource. We also will remove our fiscal no as it was on the original bill, which was much different than the current amended bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any additional support here in Carson City? In Las Vegas, any support for Senate Bill 400? On the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of SB 400, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. If you have just joined us and would like to offer testimony in support of SB 400, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you very much. And so we'll go to opposition here in Carson City. In Las Vegas, any opposition? On the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 400, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Thank you very much.
There are no callers wishing to offer opposition testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to neutral here in Carson City. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Nicole Rourke, representing the City of Henderson. With the amendment, we are here in neutral. We appreciate the work of Senator Neal and talking with us and all the services that we are providing to assist homeless folks in finding housing and other services. And so we appreciate her work on this. We do still have a few policy questions, which is what puts us in neutral. And so we'll continue to work with her on that. We appreciate her taking off the $2 million requirement to add dollars to the effort and allow us to apply for the additional funding coming through and count our existing services for that amount. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair John Darloop and members of the Committee on Finance. For the record, Leonardo Benavides, Governor Affairs Manager for the City of North Las Vegas. Echoing the sentiments of my colleague from Henderson, we want to thank Senator Neal for talking with me beforehand, as well as sharing the amendment language with us and clarifying some of the questions on what the funds that are being used and making sure that we're using our existing funds to help in this project with the homeless services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Beth Schmidt. I represent the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I do want to start by thanking Senator Neal. We have had extensive conversations with her. We are in neutral right now simply because I have just received the amendment. But I do want to say that on behalf of Sheriff McMahill and on behalf of the LVMPD, we appreciate all efforts of all stakeholders to come together on homelessness, addiction, mental health. What is so encouraging to see is that we're not throwing our hands up. We're not saying, kick the can down the road, let someone else deal with this. And so we right now, we are in neutral. We have removed our fiscal note based on the amendment, and we hope to move to support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Mindy Elliott with Flynn Judici Government Affairs, representing Nevada Housing Coalition. I'm actually here in support, so I apologize I couldn't get down the aisle quick enough. We just appreciate this body and certainly Senator Neal and all the efforts to provide a continuum of solutions for housing during this session. So we are in support of SB 400 and do thank the bill sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair Dondera Loop, members of the committee, Joanna Jacob on behalf of Clark County. Here in neutral because we are also working through on the amendment as it gets written up. I wanted to put on the record that we can, as Senator Neal mentioned in her testimony, remove our fiscal note because it was on the bill as introduced. So I can certainly send documentation to this committee formally to remove that fiscal note. And also just want to say we are supportive of Senator Neal's efforts to bring additional resources to homelessness in Clark County. We have put in over $100 million in terms of supportive housing, bridge housing. We're really tackling this in addition to our rental assistance program, which we've been deploying since the beginning of the pandemic. So we look forward to working with Senator Neal as this moves along. And so we're supportive of the funding request, neutral until this gets written up, and we will remove our fiscal note. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, I think we have completed neutral here in Carson City. We'll go to Las Vegas. Any neutral in Las Vegas? Phone lines, please.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to offer neutral testimony to SB 400, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to offer neutral testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, Senator Neal, closing remarks.
I just want to thank the chair and the Senate Committee on Finance for hearing all my bills. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Senator Neal, and thanks for doing all that work. And with that, if you'll hang on just a minute. Senator Flores, if you'll hang on just a minute, we're actually trying to bump you down one. We have someone that we're trying to juggle schedules with, so if you'll just hang on 1 minute. All righty, we are going to open Senate Bill 387 with Senator Pazina, and so please go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, and thank you so much. Chair Dondero-Loop, members of the Senate Committee on Finance, my name is Julie Pazina for the record, representing the beautiful Senate District 12 in Clark County. And it's my pleasure to be before you today on 387, and I apologize because I ran from Commerce and Labor, and I'm very out of breath. By way of background, 387 was brought forward to ensure that opportunities exist for every qualified person to be employed in our classified state service. We've heard how many open positions exist within the state. And this bill allows for those with commensurate experience to qualify for a position without requiring a bachelor's degree. In regards to the fiscal note, I've had ongoing conversations with the administrator of the Division of Human Resource Management and the deputy director of the Department of Administration, and they have removed the fiscal note. I believe that Deputy Director Tuma is available for any questions. Whew. Sorry again. And the Joint Committee did direct $500,000 with AB 451, and that's why the fiscal note was removed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Finance.
Can we hear from
Yes, I was waiting for the department to arrive. Thank you very much. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Matthew Tuma, Deputy Director for the Department of Administration. I'm here for any questions regarding the fiscal note. We placed the fiscal note on this legislation when there was the expectation with the legislation that we would review classifications for classified positions on a more regular basis than what we currently do. We currently review, on average, each of the class specs about once a decade. So it's a pretty slow review unless there's a specific legislative direction or specific direction to move forward with creating a new classification class spec for any position. We would expect that if we were going to review these at a higher rate than about once a decade, we would need some additional staff at DHRM to do so. But in a previous hearing of the joint money committees between Assembly Ways and Means and Finance, the committees directed an appropriation to be added to legislation that would include a comprehensive class spec study for all positions within the state. This was directed at about at a $500,000 appropriation, and that was based off of testimony from DHRM in a previous hearing. If this legislation passes with that appropriation to do that activity, we would be able to incorporate a one-time update of all class specs across the executive and incorporate that one-time update for all of these regarding this direction, and then we would go back into the normal timing of what current staff would be able to review those, which would be approximately once a decade.
Okay, thank you for that information. Any questions from the committee? All right, seeing none right now, we'll go to support for Senate Bill 387 here in Carson City. Support in Las Vegas. Support online, BPS, when you're ready.
To testify in support of Senate Bill 387, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers to testify in support.
Thank you very much. We'll go to opposition here in Carson City. Las Vegas. On the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
To testify in opposition to Senate Bill 387, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in opposition.
Thank you very much. We'll go to neutral here in Carson City, in Las Vegas. On the phone lines, when you're ready.
To testify in neutral to Senate Bill 387, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers to testify in neutral.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, any closing remarks, Senator?
Thank you for being kind while I was out of breath.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And with that, I'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 387, and I will open the hearing on Senate Bill 373. And Senator Flores will do all of your bills at once as well. So welcome to the table, Senate Bill 373. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and esteemed colleagues. I am Senator Edgar Flores for the record, representing Senate District 2, and I am here to proudly present Senate Bill 373. I will say, Madam Chair, prior to explaining the bill, that there is a voluminous amount of fiscal notes that were placed on this bill, and I've had an opportunity to speak to many of the agencies, but by no means have I had a chance to speak to all of them. There's a conceptual amendment that I'm going to put on the record now, along with send out an email that was sent, but I can assure you that not all agencies have seen it, but I do believe that it removes most of the fiscal notes, and I'll explain why. So just to provide some broad guidance as to what we are doing here. Under NRS 232.0081, there was a requirement during the special session, and I believe it was Senator Doñate who carried Senate Bill 318, that specifically created a requirement that a language access plan be created by our state agencies, and they designated a specific person that would create a language access plan. That was already implemented into law. However, there was no requirement that the language access plan ever actually be implemented. It was only a language access plan that was presented, but never actually implemented. So what I did with my bill is I went a step further and then requested the actual implementation, provided some guidance on how to do that. I want to make clear what I think is very important. Presently, state agencies that are federally funded are required to ensure compliance with the Safe Streets Act and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And they must take reasonable steps to ensure that limited English persons have meaningful access to its programs and activities. Meaningful access may entail providing language assistance services, including oral and written translation where necessary. If state agencies are not doing this, complaints can be submitted against them with the Civil Rights Office of the U.S. Department of Justice, which will trigger an audit by the Department of Justice of that agency. The DOJ also selects federally funded agencies to do compliance reviews periodically. I make that point, Madam Chair, because what I intend to submit as a conceptual amendment for this body to review, I casted a much wider net. I was not attempting to go after self-funded agencies or boards. That was not the intent. So what the conceptual amendment would be is that we focus on those that receive federal funding, because it is my position that if you're receiving federal funding, you are now eligible and presently can get money from the federal government for your language access plan implementation. The federal government would put that task on you, and if somebody were to file a complaint, it would trigger an audit. So I believe that we can get this covered through the federal government. So my intent is for the bill to remain as is, and that we add an extra line that indicates that this is applicable, specifically my bill is applicable to those agencies that receive federal funding. I believe that there's still going to be some federal agencies that will some state agencies that will say that they believe that the fiscal note will still be applicable. But I do believe that at a bare minimum, it would remove a lot of the fiscal notes from all the agencies that are self-funded. And as you see the fiscal notes, they range from $0 to several $1 million. They're all over the place. But I think with this amendment, we get not all of them there, Madam Chair, but I do think that we get a lot of those fiscal notes removed. And with that, Madam Chair, any questions you may have?
Thank you very much, Senator. Yes, I see many, many fiscal notes here. Any questions? Senator Gansert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The original bill talks about 12 languages. Are you still at the 12 languages, or?
Thank you for that. Madam Chair, one of the things that I did discuss with, and I will take direction from the committee on this particular subject matter. The reason we picked 12 languages, we were just mimicking some of the actions that we saw taken in other states. Beyond that, I am concerned that somebody who falls in the 13th language category, that it's 0.003% of the population or whomever that speak that language, I still fear that they may be able to file a language access complaint with one of our state agencies. I am not sure. But one of the things that I did say to the agencies, some of the agencies that I had an opportunity to speak with, is that we were comfortable in reducing that amount to requiring the first three, the top three languages, and that the others only be triggered by request. In other words, it would have to be a community-based organization, nonprofit. Somebody would have to come forward and make that request, otherwise it would not be triggered. But I am comfortable taking guidance from the committee on that particular matter, because my only concern is my understanding from some of these federal complaints that we've seen is that there is a possibility, no matter what, for example, when it comes to our community that is deaf, hard hearing, et cetera, that they obviously are not in that original 12 language category, but that we have to provide those services. So I would have to just be very careful how we narrowly tailor that, and I am concerned that if I start picking different numbers, or even if I were to expand it to 14 versus reducing it to 2 or 3, that we still put those agencies in that possibility of getting a federal audit if they're not meeting the language access plan's requirements per the feds when you receive federal funding. So that's why I am open to that conversation and working with the committee on that. But I fear that even if I were to change that number, the federal requirements may still trigger that the bill have to go beyond that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So since there's federal requirements, I'm not sure why we just don't rely on the federal requirements if you're going to limit this to whoever has federal funding, just because those exist and that's where the risk is. And so do we need this if it's really tailored to just those who receive federal funding and already have a federal standard?
Thank you, Senator Gansert, for that question. Senator Edgar Flores, for the record. My only concern is that the only way we're going to require any of the state agencies to do anything via the federal requirement would be triggered by an actual complaint. So there would have to be complaints consistently being filed against the state agencies. I was hoping that we preemptively avoid that entire procedural walk, and that we preemptively say, as a state, we've already, during the special session, during COVID times, realized that we should have language access plans. They've been put out there, they're in the universe, we can see them, they're accessible. The question and my request now is that we actually implement them.
Thank you very much. Senator, I know that there's another bill coming on the other side, and how does that play with this bill, or does it?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Edgar Flores, for the record. I had an opportunity to review that. I do believe that they would probably be in alignment with an exception that if I amend my bill, because I believe it was either 25 million or 50 million, and Madam, is it 25? I think it's 25 million that was discussed. Madam Chair, I think if I implement my amendment of saying we are not going to capture funded agencies, and we're focusing more on those that provide direct services. And also, just to be abundantly clear, a lot of these boards, I talked to a board who says we allow folk to whether or not they could sell propane tanks. Those were not the folk we were trying to capture. And I think that net was, again, just too wide. So I believe, Madam Chair, that if we keep it focused on direct services and those who are getting federal funding, I think they would march together, Madam Chair. I think they would walk and they would work together.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, it sounds to me like there's some work that needs to be done before we go to the next steps. So with that, unless there are any more questions from the committee, I will go to those in support of Senate Bill 373. Go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Dondero Loop and members of this committee. I'll make my remarks quick. My name is Catherine Nielsen. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities. As you may recall, many people with disabilities use various forms of language, including but not limited to American Sign Language, Braille, large print, and audio. Our comments last time requested an expansion of this bill to include auditory, visual, manual, or spoken languages that would increase access to information for all Nevadans requesting information from our state agencies. The state of Nevada needs to model what should be when discussing language access. We applaud Senator Flores and Governor Lombardo for their hard work and the increased funding to ensure language access for all, and we're dedicated to working with the bill sponsors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in Carson City in support? In Las Vegas in support? Phone lines? BPS when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to speak in support of SB 373, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm sorry for the background noise. I am moving around here. This is Dora Martinez with the Nevada Disability Action Coalition. We would like to thank very much Senator Flores for sponsoring this bill. I am blind, and a lot of my members have various disabilities, and I just want to ditto Catherine Nielsen's statement, and thank you so much, and I hope that you all pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You got to go to the other side, Sean.
And
yeah.
Next caller, please.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Deanna Hewitt-Tran. That's DEANNA-HUA-TRAN, and I'm the coalition coordinator for the Nevada Immigrant Coalition here on behalf of the coalition. And the NIC is here in full support of Senate Bill 373 by requiring agencies to designate vital information and documents related to their services and the most common languages spoken by individuals with limited English proficiency. The bill ensures that these individuals can access and understand important information necessary for utilizing state services. And when individuals can also access and understand information about employment opportunities, state resources, education programs, healthcare services, and other vital agencies of the state, they are better equipped to participate in the workforce safely and confidently, and pursue education and make better informed decisions for themselves. An intentional and meaningful language access plan is imperative for our state residents to feel both safe and included in our communities, and we urge your support on SB 373. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Thank you, Chair. That concludes callers in support.
Thank you very much. With that, we will go to opposition here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, and on the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to offer opposition testimony to SB 373, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to offer opposition testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll go to neutral here in Carson City, Las Vegas. On the phone lines, please, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to offer neutral testimony to SB 373, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to offer neutral testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. Any closing remarks, Senator?
Senator Edgar Flores, for the record. Once again, Madam Chair, being so late in the game, I will never say no to a hearing. And I needed to be sure that I had an opportunity to get in front of you. I promised to the committee that after I have an opportunity to have sat down and spoken to every single agency, which is a lot, I've only gone through about 50% of them, I will come back and report exactly where all the new fiscal notes are with my amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 373, and we'll go to Senate Bill 428. Senator Flores, when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, still proudly representing Senate District 2, and I'm here to present Senate Bill 429. I believe in Las Vegas I am joined by Ms. Kelly Maxwell, Executive Director of Baby's Bounty, and I do not know if our Lieutenant Governor Lisa Cano is also there, but I had an opportunity during the interim to have sat down and worked with them. And very briefly, because Ms. Kelly Maxwell is there, she can more eloquently inform this committee of her work. But I will say that they do diaper banks all over the state of Nevada. And during the interim, they reached out to me and asked why the state of Nevada had not followed suit with many of the other states in helping new families by removing the tax on diapers. And I said I would 100% join her in that effort. And Madam Chair, with that, that is all the bill does, but if I could very briefly hand over the presentation to Ms. Maxwell in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and welcome. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Senator Flores and Chair Dondero Loop. Kelly Maxwell for the record. I am the Executive Director of Baby's Bounty. I'm also the Chair of the Statewide Diapering Resource Committee. Baby's Bounty is a 15-year-old nonprofit working to improve health outcomes for families living in poverty here in Nevada. We do that through several programs, most importantly our Diaper Bank program, which has distributed nearly 3 million diapers and 6 million wipes to nearly 37,000 families here in Nevada in the past 3 years. Some important points regarding this bill. 1 in 3 families experience diaper need. Diaper need is defined as the lack of ability to afford enough diapers for families to keep their children clean, healthy, and dry. Due to inflation, diapers have increased in cost by 20 to 185%, depending on brand. And that's in the past 3 years. Diapers are preventative healthcare supplies without an alternative. As such, they should not be subject to sales tax. Nevada needs to join the other 18 states and the District of Columbia that have already removed the sales tax on these preventative healthcare supplies. The yearly cost savings that a family would experience on diapers by removing the sales tax on diapers would allow that family to purchase a full month's supply of diapering supplies. So that it's quite a benefit for families struggling to afford these essential items. In addition to broad bipartisan support, this bill also has support from our Secretary of State, Nevada State Treasurer, Councilman Brian Knudsen, Councilman and Vice Mayor Devin Reese, Reno Mayor Hillary Sheevy, Councilman Cedric Creer, Commissioner Michael Naft, North Las Vegas Mayor Pamela Goins-Brown, Lieutenant Governor Lisa Cano Burkhead, the National Diaper Bank Network, and the Nevada Maternal Health Child Health Coalition. To close, I just want to say that, to paraphrase the words of our State Treasurer, Zach Conine, with a budget surplus, Nevada doesn't need this money, and it doesn't need it on the backs of working families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And does the other person at the table wish to make any testimony?
Not at this time, only if there are questions.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, with that, any questions? Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't understand the last part on the state doesn't need this money on the backs of, I don't understand that statement. What was meant by that statement?
Kelly Maxwell, for the record. There's a fiscal note attached to the removal of sales tax. I think our treasurer's point was that Nevada doesn't need the sales tax revenue for on diapers on the backs of working families.
Oh, okay. Thanks. We don't need our sales tax revenue. Thank you. Okay. I'm sorry. It's just I chair revenue, so I'm very sensitive.
If you could turn off your microphone, please, down in Las Vegas. Thank you.
I'm just very sensitive about sales tax revenue.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do you, I see the sales tax revenue fiscal note, but do you have an idea of how much this saves a family of, say, 0 to 1 years or 2 years? Do you have an idea of what that saves a family? Can you give us $100, $500, or can you give us any of that type of information?
So diapering supplies can cost a family per child between $900 and $1,200 per year. So if we're looking at that sales tax of a little more than 8%, we're looking at about $100 savings, which again will allow a family to purchase a month's supply of diapers.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Neal, did you have another question?
I probably shouldn't. Listen. Senator Flores, you know I like you. It's a 400, is that the right number, the 460 million?
Is taxation here? Somebody want to jump in here? Or do you not? Okay.
Madam Chair, Senator Neal, Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, I'm sorry, if you could please repeat your number.
It says the general fund will decrease by 460 million roughly in total.
Senator Neal, I apologize. I may be looking at something completely different, but what I have, Senator Edgar Flores, for the record, what I have here for fiscal year 24-25 is $5,871,773, and then the effect on the future biennia, I do have 25 million there.
Yeah, and then the last sentence says the general fund revenue will decrease by approximately 460 million in total from January 1st, 2025 through sunset of 2050.
Understood, and I am now.
So over that 25 years.
And I apologize, Senator Edgar Flores, for the record. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Senator Neal. I am now reading the same thing. I see exactly what you're highlighting. If I only may add, Madam Chair, is that this was a rough estimate, and I make that point only to make it clear that it was impossible to know the exact amount. They had to look at statistical data. They spoke with demographers, got an idea of how many families approximately we have, approximately how many diapers are purchased. But it was impossible to know the exact amount. But that was just kind of how that number was come up with, Madam Chair. And I have nothing further to add to this.
Thank you very much. Anything additional, Senator Neal? Senator Ganser, did you have a question? Okay. All right. Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you, Senator Flores. I just have to look at this, that although we're losing that tax revenue perhaps from the sale of the diapers, we're giving that back to families to reinvest in food or other items. It's not like they're going to just put that in, or I would assume they don't put that money then in a can in the ground. They're going to use that for other family needs. And that's how I see this. So it's not, although technically they can figure out how much we lose in this particular tax, they're going to reinvest that money.
Thank you, Senator Titus. Senator Edgar Flores, for the record. Absolutely. And that was the whole vision and purpose behind this bill. If we can help families, particularly those who are with young families, and anybody who's ever had a child understands how much every single nickel and dime you can save, what that means, but more importantly, you're 100% going to reinvest that in one other thing in the state of Nevada. But it just allows you to spread your dollar further, and it allows you to provide more for that child. If we're saving $200 on diapers, you're spending $200 more on that same child just in something else. Thank you.
So just as a form of reference, a box of diapers can cost anywhere from, depending on how many diapers are in a box. So if you go to your local store, it can be anything from, I don't know, I would guess $35 all the way up to $50 for a box of diapers, depending on the size and how many are in there. So I'm looking at a store website right now, and 32 diapers that are for size 1, you know, could be $10, but there would be only like small amount of diapers in that box. So if I bought a bigger box, I could be spending $50. So.
Taxation's
And once again, the all call if taxation wants to weigh in on this in Las Vegas or in Carson City.
Hi, good morning, Chair. I apologize. I wasn't sure if we had someone in the north as well, but this is Erica Scott, economist with taxation for the record. The fiscal note, yes, the amount that Senator Neal was questioning, the $460 million was in total from the fiscal year, part of fiscal year 25 all the way through fiscal year 2050.
Okay, all right. I don't see any additional questions or comments. Thank you very much, Ms. Scott. And with that, we will go to those in support of Senate Bill 428 here in Carson City. In Las Vegas. On the phone lines, BPS when you're ready.
To testify in support of Senate Bill 428, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good morning, Chair. This is Dora Martinez with the Nevada Disability Pre-Action Coalition. We like to thank Senator Flores for sponsoring this bill, and we ask you to support it. Thank you and have a good Friday.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Dakota Hoskins, DAKOTA-HOSKIMS, Political Director for SEIU Local 1107. SEIU supports and urges your support of SB 428. We believe this is a great bill for working families and our members in Nevada. We urge your support. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support of SB 428, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers wishing to testify in support.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll go to opposition here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, and on the phone lines, BPS when you're ready.
To testify in opposition of Senate Bill 428, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in opposition.
Thank you very much, and we'll go to neutral here in Carson City, in Las Vegas. On the phone lines, BPS when you're ready.
To testify in neutral to Senate Bill 428, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in neutral.
Thank you very much. Any closing comments, Senator Flores?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Senator Edgar Flores. For the record, I just wanted to again thank Ms. Kelly Maxwell for all her tremendous and amazing work in this state and for focusing so heavily on helping new families. It's just been an honor to work alongside of her. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. All righty. With that, I will close the hearing on Senate Bill 428, and I'll open the hearing on Senate Bill 426. Where is Senator Spearman?
There's 389 too.
Oh. We're just waiting for a couple members to get here. Everyone's in committees, so if you'll just hang loose. I think we may do 389 next, so hang on. All righty, we are going to go to Senate Bill 389.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Heidi Seavers-Gansert from Senate District 15 in Northern Nevada. This bill, just speaking to the fiscal note, there's a reporting piece that's in Section 4. There's all sorts of organizations that work around human trafficking, and this is an effort to determine, how they're coordinating and what they're doing, and that's part of the fiscal note. And then if you were to go to the back of the bill, there's $1 million request to go into in Section 7.5 into the contingency account for victims of human trafficking. And that account does not have a lot of money in it, but that is an account that can be used by the victims in emergency situations. They also have access to the Victims of Crime Fund, and the Victims of Crime Fund has quite a bit of money in it, and there's a section in here that extends the duration during which someone who's a victim of sex trafficking can apply to that fund. So it used to be, I think it was 24 months, and we were looking at going to 48 months because victims of crime oftentimes take a while to recover and recognize that the help that they need, and that type of help could be rental assistance, it could be relocation, it could be child care, it could be helping prep them for a job. And I'm very pleased that Senator Scheibel has joined me now, and so she can continue with any other information you may need. Thank you.
Thank you. Melanie Scheibel, for the record, State Senator for District 9. I am sure my colleague, Senator Seavers-Gansert, has done an excellent job, and I think we're ready for questions, unless she wasn't finished.
I love it. We move quick around here. Thank you very much. Thank you for hustling down here. Any questions on Senate Bill 389? Seeing none, we will go to those in support. Thank you, both.
Chair, may I be excused to go back to?
You may. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you doing the hustle. When I was trying to find you, I didn't realize that Senator Gansert was even on the bill, so I hadn't gotten that far in my notes. So I apologize for making you hustle, but you got your steps in, and we appreciate Senator Gansert and her expertise. All righty. Okay, with that, we'll go to support here in Carson City. Las Vegas. On the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to provide testimony in support of SB 389, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good morning again, Madam Chair. This is Dora Martinez, representing the Nevada Disability Peer Action Coalition. Thank you to my amazing rep, Senator Hubert Gansert. We would really appreciate it if you all support this bill, and thank you and have a great Friday.
Thank you very much. Any additional?
That concludes callers in support. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And with that, we'll go to opposition here in Carson City, opposition in Las Vegas, opposition on the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to provide opposition testimony for SB 389, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to offer opposition testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. And we'll go to neutral here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, and on the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to provide neutral testimony to SB 389, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to offer neutral testimony at this time.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, Senator Gansert, any closing comments? All righty. Thank you very much for your time. And with that, I'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 389, and we'll open the hearing on... We're still waiting for Senator. All right, hang on, recess. Oh, you are a sight for sore eyes. You don't know how happy we are to see you, Senator. Come on down. All right, we'll come out of recess and we'll call on Senator Spearman to present Senate Bill 426. You are the caboose, and we are happy that you are here, and thank you. Go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you. For the record, I'm State Senator Pat Spearman, representing Senate District 1 in Clark County, and I'll give you the abbreviated version of 426 so that it'll be a sight for sore ears too, okay? I guess that's right. So 426 basically is for neighborhood stabilization. During the pandemic, there were several people who I know in my district, and I'm sure several others of you probably heard the same thing, that were having a very difficult time staying in their home, staying in their apartment, and the prices were escalating. And I do know that on 5 different occasions, some people contacted me. The prices were going up. One went up from $1,800 to $3,000 a month, and there had been nothing done to the rental property, had been painted, carpet, nothing had happened. It's just that it just went up arbitrarily. And so what 426 does is it puts some, excuse me, puts some brakes on that and put some checks and balances in place so that, number one, tenants have an opportunity to understand, number one, why the rates are going up. Number two, there are a lot of people, a lot of landlords who are compassionate and who did not participate in those types of shenanigans, so we want to make sure that they're protected as well. But there are also some people who did participate in that, and we want to make sure that we do the checks and balances. So that's the policy portion. You have before you fiscal note, and I did talk with Steve on Wednesday afternoon, and he suggested that we put some language in there, some language that had already been adopted, because all of this, the fiscal note was related to hiring people who would actually have to go through and review the request and answer the questions that are now in the amendment. And so with this, with the amendment, it takes away the fiscal note. An amendment that you should have, in Section 5, require that an application from such a landlord for an exemption from the cost of living increase include any proof necessary to justify the exemption and a report that demonstrates the need for an exemption, which must be prepared by a certified public accountant, certified to practice in the state pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 628 of NRS. And excuse me, those provisions are very similar to some provisions that were put into a bill by one of my other colleagues related to mobile home parks. And so you have, anyone with 5 or more units, and then you have number 2. And so that takes away the fiscal note for that housing has put in, and the 5 or more also protects the mom and pop landlords. So with that.
Senator Wynn, please.
Thank you, Senator Spearman, for your presentation on this bill. I have a question on when your amendment directed me to Section 5. Look, it's always me. I think it might be this computer. Oh, see, much better. Directed me to Section 5, and I just had a question about this because I didn't see a definition, and I don't know if this is a question for you or maybe the Housing Division and Department of Business and Industry are aware of this language. It says in that Section 5, in that first section, if an exemption is necessary for the landlord to obtain a fair and reasonable rate of return on his or her property, I didn't see a corresponding definition, but is that defined by that Housing Division of the Department of Business and Industry? And if you don't know that, is there any way, I don't know if there's anyone that might be able to know if there's like a standard or if you had some sort of intention. Obviously, I didn't sit on the policy committee, so I'm curious to see what that means.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Senator Nguyen, Senator Pat Spearman, representing Senate District 1. I don't have the exact language, but the language that you see here is what I got from the Housing Division. So I can check that and get back with you and make sure that it answers the mail on your question.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It just seemed kind of vague. I was like, who makes this determination on what's fair and reasonable? And maybe that's standard industry language. And if that's the case, I would love to see that. Thank you.
Senator Neal, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I had a question on Section 6 with the it's the withholding of the rent. I guess I'm trying to understand, so give me the real life example on like how that works with, so if the landlord increases or charges rent to a tenant in violation of Section 4, the tenant may, in addition to any other remedy, so they go to court, they can withhold rent without incurring late charges, fees, or any other charge or fee authorized by the rental agreement. So then what happens, what's the remedy after that if they find out that landlord appropriately did the act? Is the renter now going to repay this withholding? Is it going to be tacked on to the in rent? How will they get this back if the landlord actually acted properly?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Senator Neal. And so if the landlord acted improperly, the Housing Division is the one that will assess whatever the fines and fees are. What that exactly entails in terms of percentage, numbers, I don't have that information right now, and unfortunately, I didn't bring the bill downstairs from committee with me, so please forgive me. I'm so sorry. But I can get the information for you. I can probably have it, if you give me a couple of minutes, I can probably have it before you complete the answer to your question about who would actually make that determination. Okay?
Additional, Senator Neal?
And so you have the bill. Can I ask one more question? So on the it's still in Section 6. It's page 8, line 6, which is that sub 2 after F. Who's the law enforcement agency? So are we talking about having like Metro? I mean, who's the law enforcement agency here, where by showing that the tenant complained in good faith about the landlord or the law enforcement agency in violation?
Thank you, Senator Neal. Through you, Madam Chair, to Senator Neal. And it's my understanding that's the Housing Division, but I will get back to you with those questions as well. And I'm not sure why they weren't here today, but I'll make sure that I answer those questions. Okay?
Mr. Acroth is behind you, trying to hide. He keeps putting down his head lower and lower. But if he would like to answer any questions, and if you don't, you can just put your head down. We accept that as well. Please, sir. You can't escape us. We're so much fun.
That's okay. Good morning, Chair Dondero Loop. Appreciate the expeditious fashion in which you conduct a meeting. And Steve Acroft for the Administrator of the Housing Division, prepared to attempt to answer any questions.
Okay, Senator Neal, go. It's your turn.
So are you the law enforcement agency?
So, Steve Acroft, for the record, from a law enforcement agency, no perspective. From a potential compliance agency, potentially, I guess is the best way that I can answer that at this time.
So on the provision that I asked about on Section 6, where the withholding of the rent, so if the landlord increases or charges, and let's say, because I read these are kind of like or statements, 1, 2, and 3. what if the landlord did act properly and the tenant withheld the rent? What will be your role in trying to remedy the loss of fees and rent under 2? Because this is outside of court.
Yeah, Steve Acroth, Administrator of the Nevada Housing Division. Okay, so just so I'm clear, we're looking at section 6.5.
No, section 6, sub 2, line 34 through 38. 6. So if the landlord increases or charges, yeah.
All right, give me a moment here.
Okay.
So Steve Acroth, Administrator of the Nevada Housing Division, just looking at this, I believe if I'm reading this correct, if the landlord increases or charges rent to a tenant in violation of the provisions of Section 4 of this Act, the tenant may, in addition to any other remedy, withhold any rent that becomes due without incurring late fees, charges for notice, or any other charge or fee authorized by this chapter until the landlord has remedied or has attempted to remedy in good faith the failure. Is that, okay, good, thank you. I don't really have an answer to that. I apologize, but typically we are not the enforcement agency for something along those lines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Senator Neal, I'm attempting to get it. Excuse me, attempting to get an answer now, so I can get one for you.
So perhaps we can get those answers at some point. All right, thank you very much. All right, any additional questions? Mr. Acroth, one more question. With the proposed amendment, am I clear that your fiscal note would go away?
Steve Acroth, for the record, we believe that we would still need to have personnel to administer the program. It would be substantially reduced, that I can say, to this group. I just saw we talked about the amendment on Wednesday. I would need to do a little more due diligence, but I cannot at this point tell you that it would be eliminated entirely.
Okay, thank you. That's clear enough. Thank you very much. All right, with that, seeing no more questions, we'll go to support for Senate Bill 426 here in Carson City. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Christine Saunders, and I'm the Policy Director with the Progressive Leadership Alliance in Nevada, here in support of Senate Bill 426. Unchecked rent increases push families' budgets past their breaking point, forcing them to choose between things like paying their rent or buying essentials like food and medicine. These financial hardships can cause families to deplete their savings, push them into homelessness, and send them into a spiral of poverty. Senate Bill 426 will keep families in their homes when the rental market is stacked against them. When rent stabilization policies are in place, landlords can raise the rent only when they keep units safe and maintained. Rent stabilization policies both protect tenants and include provisions that make the system fair for landlords. Senate Bill 426 will keep families in their homes and create more economically stable and diverse communities. We urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Lilith Barron, Lilithbaran, with the ACLU of Nevada. We urge the passing of this measure simply because stability is the root of importance for children and families when they are experiencing housing insecurity and instability. It is difficult to know where the child is going to school, which will often trickle down into school discipline issues, which I know we've been very worried about this session and others past, as well as small businesses or the overall greater good of a community in general. So we urge to pass this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, anyone else in support in Carson City? In Las Vegas, seeing none. BPS on the phone lines.
To testify in support of Senate Bill 426, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Dakota Hoskins, BAKOTAHOSKINS, Political Director for SEIU Local 1107. SEIU urges your support. We believe that this bill is going to create stability and affordable housing for many of our members and the community members throughout the state of Nevada. And we believe SB 426 should be passed, and we urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Hi, my name is Valerie Thomason. I'm with the Democratic Socialists of America. I'm calling in support of SB 426. I'm a single mother. I'm also a lifelong Nevadan, so I have watched as these rent prices went, from something that most people could afford to something that almost nobody can afford. It's moved 6 times in the last 5 years because every single time that I go to renew my lease, the rent goes up. And these increases are far beyond anything someone could reasonably expect. I'm talking about $400 in a year or $500 in a year. And every single time that I do move, I also have to go to an apartment that is less good than the apartment that I moved from. At this point, I'm staying in a 600 square foot apartment that costs me $1,300 a month with no amenities or washer or dryer or anything. 5 years ago, $1,300 could have rented you a house. It's absolutely ridiculous how far it's gone. And at this point, I'm worried that if it keeps going up, if it goes up this year again $400, next year another $400, there will be nowhere left for us to live. And I don't really know what's going to happen when we get to that point and how those people are going to get back into housing if those costs are across the board. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Chair, there are no more callers to testify in support.
Thank you very much. We'll go to opposition here in Carson City. In Las Vegas, hurry down. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Chair Dondero Loop and members of the committee. For the record, Dylan Keith, DYLAN, KEITH with the Vegas Chamber. The Chamber would like to thank Senator Spearman for her intent. We do see that there are rising rents. However, the Chamber does come today in strong opposition to SB 426. It is a principle of the Chamber to believe in the free market of pricing and remove burdensome government intervention in determining prices in a market. This legislation will not address the severe housing shortage we face in Nevada, as we need around 80,000 units statewide. We do have concerns at the cost of this legislation still, and we ask the committee to oppose this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else in opposition? All right, phone lines, BPS when you're ready.
To testify in opposition to Senate Bill 426, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers to testify in opposition.
Thank you very much. We'll go to neutral here in Carson City.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Mindy Elliott with Flynn Judici Government Affairs, representing the Reno Housing Authority, the Southern Nevada Regional Housing Authority, and the Rural Nevada, Nevada Rural Housing Authority. We are just in receipt of this amendment, and I need to take that back to the housing authorities and work with the bill sponsor to see if what impact it's going to have. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. All right, any other neutral for Senate Bill 426 here in Carson City? In Las Vegas, on the phone lines, BPS, when you're ready.
Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no callers to give testimony at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, Senator Spearman, any additional closing remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. State Senator Pat Spearman, representing Senate District 1. And I have not received the answer back from legal yet, but they're checking it. And I would just like to say, I know that there are a number of people who may think that this will not solve the problem, but it's kind of like the story, you know, if there's one person that needs something and you help that one person, you know, you might be the world to that person. And I know that people in my district especially were the ones who were really, really hurt. A lot of the working men and women who work, and many of them don't even make $15 an hour. And so what this legislation will do is it will help them tremendously. It may not be perfect, but I would ask you to consider that perfect not be the enemy of good. And most of us have options when it comes to our living arrangements. The people that we're fighting for in this bill usually don't. So with that, I'll turn it to Mr. Agar.
Thank you very much, Senator. We appreciate your closing comments. Mr. Acroft, did you have anything to say?
I didn't, unless there were additional questions.
I don't see anything, sir. You're off the hook. Thank you very much. All right, with that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 426, and we will go to public comment, the last item on our agenda. Once again, I will remind you, 888-475-4499, meeting ID 838-2881-2259, and press pound. And when prompted for participant ID, you may press pound. Carson City, anyone in public comment? In Las Vegas, seeing none. BPS, when you're ready on the phone lines.
Thank you, Chair. The public lines are open and working. However, there are no callers to offer public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that being said, we have completed our agenda, which means we will not be having an afternoon meeting, but we will have a meeting tomorrow morning. I believe we will be starting at 8 o'clock. If that changes for any reason, I will let you know. But right now, we need to probably start at 8 a.m. to get it all done in this room, unless you hear differently. All right? 8 a.m., be there, be square. Thank you very much. And this meeting is adjourned.